So what have we got here? Well, we've got a little screwdriver, we've got a trim clip remover, a little lever, basically a couple of screwdrivers will do that if you've not got one of them. Wire brush is always handy, a lever of some type is always handy. We've got a 10mm socket, we've got a T30 Torx and a 5mm Allen key. It doesn't have to be in that type, just as long as you've got those. Grips, pretty useful, or a very good pair of pliers. Got a brand new ABS sensor, that's useful. I've got a cheat gun, but you don't necessarily need that at all. Bit of copper grease, WD-40, of course some cable ties, something to cut the cable ties with, and pop for your bits. Let's get the job done. Oh, you might need a 407 that's got an ABS sensor broken too.
So the first things you'll need to do is use your trim lever remover, a 10mm socket and the T30 Torx to remove the splash guard on the inside of your arch, so you can get where the wire for the ABS sensor goes through the inner arch. Using your trim clip remover or a lever or a screwdriver, start taking the clips off the ABS sensor wire. Those wires there, don't worry too much about them. They're for the brake pad sensors. Someone snipped them at some point for some reason, but yours might still be intact. So continue to take these little rubber clips off out of their C-clips on the hub, just to free up the ABS wire. You can just pull them off sometimes, and sometimes they need a little bit of leverage, a bit of help. There we go, last one now, just above the ABS sensor itself. Needs a bit of persuasion, this one. Got a bit hot from the brakes, no doubt, and they can sometimes just glue themselves in. So, ABS sensor, just clean it up a little bit of a spray with some lubricant, you know, some freeing oil, never hurts. You could leave that for a little while to soak in. In my experience, they're either going to come out or they're not, though. So this is where you're going to need your 5mm hex, or I still like to call them Allen key bolts or heads, and give it a little tap in there with a hammer. So hopefully using a socket, it was always a little bit handier, keeps it square. Give it a little tap in there, make sure it's nice and deep into the actual bolt head, and then she should spin out without too much issue. There she goes, job done. Obviously sometimes they will snap. If they do, we're going to have to drill it out, but you'd have to do that later. Okay, and so with a set of grips or good set of pliers, give it a little wheel to try and break it free. Now I don't mean break as in snap it off, but just break it free from the little hub hole that it's in. Sometimes a little lever after just giving it a wiggle will just pop it out, sometimes it won't. Depends how old it is, depends how seized in it is. So in that case, get a pair of grips or these vice grips, give it a wiggle and pull at the same time, and she should come out. There she is! So, well done. You've done the tough bit, to be honest. Everything's easy from now on. So what we're going to do is just run that cable back through the loops that it's in, and then we need to get to the clip and the plug on the inside of the engine bay. So let's go and do that now. That's what we're looking for, from the inside of the engine bay. Okay, come on, get on with it. Right, so there's our battery, airbox, fuse box, and now kind of tucked underneath that is our ABS sensor plug. You can just see it there, center screen. It's on a little clip on the body, it just pops off. And once you've done that, you should pull it up a little bit to get access, and then you just lever the clip away with you with one finger, and the two parts of the clip pop away. They'll pop apart. So I'm just pushing away there with my finger, and the two parts of the cable pop apart. Lovely. Right, all I need to do now is pull that cable through from the arch. So we'll do that, pulling the cable through. Oh, it's caught on something. What's it caught? That caught on there, so we'll get rid of that, and pull that through properly now. And we've pulled it through the arch. Boom! Job done. So, ABS sensor, old one out. Time to put the new one in. So first thing we'll do is we'll put that through the arch now, through that little hole, and then plug it in. So just give it a wiggle through the little grommet there. Make sure the grommet's in place. Sometimes they pop out. Put enough through there so that you can clip it on to that first clip, but also enough that obviously you've got something to play with in the engine bay for popping it back together. So this is a bit of a fiddly job. It's difficult to get the camera down there while you're doing it and trying to do it one-handed, but basically you get both ends of the cable, the one that's attached to the car, the one that's attached to the sensor, plug them in up here above the airbox, and then put it back on the clip on the chassis underneath that fuse box. You could take a few parts out there, but I find you can do it without doing so. And then you're just going to run the cable now back through the route you found the old one, put in the little rubber grommet clip holding things in the little C-clips on the hub. If they're not quite in the right place, you can actually find that they'll slide up and down the cable. They're quite tight to make sure you've got slack in the right places. So we're just following the route round, popping it in each of the clips. Nice and easy, bit of lubricant helps sometimes. Make sure there's that plastic cover on the top there, stop some rubbing that obviously they have issues with. And then the final one. I'll leave the final clip off until I've put the ABS sensor in. So we're just cleaning out the hole that the ABS sensor goes into. It's not absolutely necessary, but a nice little wire brush would be good down in there. Just gets all the junk out of it, makes it easier to go in, and you never know, you might have to get it out at some point, so make it good for the next person. So we're going to clean that off now. That also means that the threads there are clean for your new bolt going in, and you're not going to be cross-threading or anything. So as a new one, I put a little bit of lubricant, a little bit of grease around the ABS sensor, but not on the tip. And we're going to push it in nice and tight. Just one thing to check, make sure it is the same length. You don't want to be putting the wrong sensor in, although you should have checked that earlier, as I did. It might need a little bit of tap in, but I wouldn't suggest using a hammer, so I'm just using a lever and just tapping gently with the back of my hand, with the palm of my hand, sorry, or you could use a little rubber mallet, I guess, which wouldn't hurt, but you don't want to be breaking the tab off or anything at any point here. You just want to be gently tapping it in and making sure the hole is lining up with the bolt hole, so that obviously you don't squimmy in a bolt when you're putting the bolt in. So bolt, get that ready, a little bit of copper grease wouldn't hurt on that. Get it on the actual socket sometimes helps if you can't do it by hand, or on an Allen key, 5mm Allen key, just to mention that again. And we're just going to wind that in. This is not holding a wheel on, okay, so don't over tighten this. You can snap them off really easily, so just nip it up, just nip it up. I'm not even going to say tight, just nip it up. Ratchet, 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 and that'll do. And then the last little clip goes on. A little bit of WD-40 or whatever you want to call it if you use it. And then I'm just making sure there's not too much wire sticking out there. There's a little bit of heat protection on the left-hand side, so we don't want any cables melting when the brakes are getting hot. Final checks to make sure there's free play in the cable in all the right places. The suspension goes up and down, the hub turns left to right, so make sure it's not going to get trapped, caught, or there's too little so that it pulls itself out. All you need to do now is put the splash guard back in, or the arch liner. If a bolt shears off like mine did, cable ties are always useful. And you're done! Well done! The same is principles true of the other side. It's just the plug it's just in a slightly different location because there's no air filter and fuse box. It's actually slightly easier on the driver's side to find that plug. Hope that's useful. Send me a message if it's not. Send me a message if I've missed anything. Put in the comments what you'd like to see. If you need any guides on a 407, now we have it as a daily, I could do a few guides on it for you. I could be doing stuff and not realise you want to see how it's done and why it's done. So there we go. The barge is now ABS fixed. You may need to clear the error code. Often the ABS system will clear that for itself and just keep it as a log, but you may need to clear the code for the light not to come up anymore. So thanks for watching Piggy Power and this guide. I hope it's proven helpful. Please hit the subscribe, please hit the like. You can hit the screen if you like, but it's your screen.